please forgive the attire, but I live in France, and for those who don't know, speaking of a couple topics in France is not necessarily illegal per se, but extremely dangerous. So I have to take some precautions. So please forgive everything, the glasses. I don't like to talk to people with sunglasses on. I think it's quite rude. And I don't like to wear a hat indoors. And I don't usually wear a mask either, but the circumstances require that, so we'll deal with it. And as I said, I'm from France. I grew up in France. Please forgive the articulation and the pronunciation and the hesitations and everything. But I've been thinking for a few days on a number of topics, and I thought I would start by making some of my musings public. So if you're watching this video, thank you for listening to me, and please don't expect anything too revolutionary or grandiose. It's just my personal reflection on the state of things. So as I said, I'm in France, so I'm going to talk about France because it's the country I know the best. And I was browsing the internet today because I found myself with some free time, unexpected free time, and I just let my fingers wander on the keyboard and explore a few topics that I had in mind for a couple days. And one thing I typed was the official numbers for the mean number of sexual partners by sex in France. And there is a surprising lack of official numbers on this topic, which, when you know how the government in France works, isn't particularly surprising. There's a method that's very common to all communist countries, and France is a communist country. It's possibly the most communist country in the history of communism. So there is a method that those kinds of governments apply to questions that are inconvenient for them. And the topic of the sexual marketplace distribution is one of those topics, one of those inconvenient matters. So it's a very unexplored question in France, which it shouldn't be. Logically, France has a population replacement threshold that's very low, that is below replacement levels for the native population, well below replacement levels. And it's basically a crisis. There's an age crisis, a generational crisis, and we should be studying and poring over this problem of sexual relations between the sexes, relations between the sexes in general. And we do not officially and not publicly at least, which is weird. But when you know that France is communist and you know how communist regimes work, some questions do not bear formulating, not even answering, just formulating. Some questions can be formulated and then answered with cooked numbers or propaganda or just straight up lies, but some questions cannot be made public And the question of the number of sexual partners by sex and by age is one of those topics, in my opinion. So I just typed that in Google, nothing fancy, and there were few results, but the few results I had were all the same, had all the same source, and they all say the same. The results were that for men and women under the age of 65 and above the age of 18, 18 which is the adulthood age in France. It's not 21 for Americans or whatever else. From 18 to, for adults between 18 and 75, it was 16 partners for their whole life for men, 16 on average sexual partners, and 8, to be exact, 7.9, so a little bit under 8 sexual partners for women for their whole life. And that did not take into account the preferences of said men and said women. So I assume it's lesbians and gays and whatever intermingled in the general population, and we arrive supposedly at these two numbers, 16 for men and 8 for women. So double for men, basically. Because the general number of partners does not really matter. It's more like the relative distribution between the sexes that interests me, at least. And that is very, very disconcerting. When you live in France, as in basically any Western societies today, you realize that the access to romantic or carnal pleasures isn't the same for men and women. And not only is it not the same, it's not even close, and it's definitely not distributed that way. You can tell me if you've been on Tinder or I don't know, Tinder is very popular here in France. It's not just an Anglophone, English-speaking app. It's very popular in France and in Europe in general. So if you've been on Tinder or if you've even studied virtual meeting places and dating apps and dating websites and whatever, or even just interactions in the street or at work or wherever, you know that women get laid by the hundreds, or I don't know how to say that in English, but women basically swallow miles and miles of dick. And they don't need to reach the ripe old age of 65 to do so. They do it usually before 35. In France, it's maybe a little bit under 37. And because the sexual marketplace is extremely unbalanced in France, it's much worse than it's in basically any country, and much, much worse than the mean US equilibrium. It's much worse. Here in France, men are browbeaten into oblivion. You've got no idea how men here have no self-respect. Zero self-respect. Zero. Negative self-respect. They can lay their riches and their energy and their self-worth and their everything at the feet of the ugliest, most manly, most ran-through, oldest, most ill-mannered creature of darkness imaginable. It's incredible. I've never seen that. So men in France are not getting laid. I'm not going to go into the details of the virginity issues, late virginity issues, and few number of partners, and no long-term commitments, and how would you say, legal repercussions and Me Too consequences and whatever. It's catastrophic. Men in France are extremely inexperienced, fearful, and it's bad. It's really bad. And the official numbers are that men get laid twice as much as women, which is crazy. So you've got a government and women magazines and TV shows and whatever, influencers on social media and whatever, feminists and politicians and everybody saying that men get laid more than women. And you've got men, on the other hand, actual men, living, breathing men, invisible to most women and completely invisible to society, that read that and they go crazy. They go fucking crazy. Women go crazy too, but they crazy by default, so just adds a little bit of whatever, of glazing on top of the cake, no pun intended, and men go crazy. Like, if you tell me, and I'm not the best guy imaginable, I'm not particularly rich, I've got a good body, but I'm not like absurdly ripped. I train, I run, I jump, I do everything, but I'm not ripped, I'm not rich, and I'm not famous, and I'm no one, basically. I'm just the mean Joe. Maybe quite a bit smarter than average, but it's the only thing that I've got more than basically anybody. And you tell a guy like me, or any guy in France above maybe 60 IQ, that men get laid twice as much as women, they're gonna slap you. They're gonna laugh it off or slap you. It's fucking ridiculous, especially when you're factoring the immigration, which is 99.9999% men who don't get laid either. I'm sorry, guys, if you're watching me from Africa or wherever, don't come in France hoping to get laid. At best, maybe you'll get a humanitarian worker or an obese nurse in some governmental triage facility or something, but don't do it. You won't get laid. You just add to the imbalance of the population and you'll be in the losing quarter, so don't do it. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's the actual propaganda in this country to browbeat men and try to make them believe that they have it good and they have it rich and they are privileged and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's mad. It's mad. And meanwhile, the official statistics say that women between the ages of 18 to 65 have eight sexual partners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the women that I know have 8 sexual partners in maybe 10 weeks. Certainly not 40 years. Okay? I'm young, I'm relatively young, and I know most women that I know are relatively young, and I can tell you that before 35 years of age, most women get 8 sexual partners per quarter at minimum, absolute minimum. They go out every single weekend and they go and they drink and they take drugs and they dance and they drive around and whatever. And they get railed every evening. There is, even where I live in a small hamlet in the middle of nowhere in France, in one of the poorest regions of France. And I've not lived here all my life, not at all, but now that's where I am. And even here, all the women that I know, every single evening on the weekend, they just leave, they go party, and they go get laid and get railed by Chad and Tyrone. Yes, even Tyrone, even in the ass crack of France, they get laid and railed by Tyrone. So basically, if you do the math, it's let's be very, very, very conservative and say one sexual partner per non-menstruating week. That's about 3 guys every month. 3 guys every month. That's 9 guys in a quarter, which is already what the official statistics say that they get in a lifetime. In 1 quarter. Just imagine. And that's right here in the ass crack of France. Imagine if they are going to college in the capital or in any large city. It's crazy. It's maybe 2 every fucking evening in that case. Okay? So that's maybe 10 dudes a month for 5 years for free on public dime. Because in France, university is free, which means paid for by people like me, who get fucked over as usual. And when they hit the wall, maybe at 35, 40, in France they don't take care of themselves, so they hit the wall quite early, maybe 29, 30, 32. When they hit the wall, they've already got hundreds of dicks. Hundreds. They've got the DNA of 100, 200, 300 men inside them. All right? And the government tells the French population that women get 8 partners in their life. I'm not even talking about the very promiscuous ones, the ones that chase male attention and that actively try to further their body count. I'm not even talking about those. Those are thousands. If you're ever in France, just create a fake Tinder profile. Just take a random 5 out of 10 or even AI-generated picture of whoever, any gal, and you just create a fake account. You put it in random place in the ass crack of the country, not even in the capital or anywhere, and you'll see the imbalance. It's fucking crazy. It's tens and tens of messages per day. Per day. Tens of messages. Okay? And it's everybody. Every single woman. Every single woman. And the statistics tell us that they touch 8 men in their whole life. 8. And it's supposed to have doubled in 30 years. So women were supposed to have 4 sexual partners right before the yachts, and now they have double that, supposedly 7.98. Who the fuck believes that? Who believes that? It's crazy. But it's the official numbers in France. One of my exes lived in a, I don't know how you say that, it's We call it a colocation. I don't know, in France. It's a group renting of a place. So there are several people, and they each contribute a small percentage of the rent, and they live together. You know what I mean. It's very common here in France for young people because we don't have any money, and the real estate market is really bad. So they do that. And my ex did that. And she was with 3 other young gals, very young gals. And they were all starting in life. They had starter jobs and part-time jobs and trash cars and whatever. And my ex was nice. She was a really good girl, and she had issues, but she was a good woman. If you see what I mean. At least she was relatively innocent, if that even is a thing. And her 3 friends and co-renters went out a lot, like 1 evening out of 2. Like every other evening, they took the shitty Clio Renault car and they went and drank and danced. And I don't even know what else, because I don't want to set foot in those pits of degeneracy. And they came back wasted, usually with men, or with cum dripping from their you know what. And that rubbed me the wrong way, which was one of the reasons I had to end things. But of course, my ex didn't do that, but she was still around this, and she still approved of it, and she would have joined if I'd let her. So I couldn't tolerate that. I've got too much respect for myself. And they did that basically 1 out of 2 evenings, every single weekend and every other day, which after a while amounts to a lot of damage and baggage. It's not even baggage at this point. It's a fucking freight train of trauma. And every single woman in France is like that. And I'm not even touching, maybe I'll do it in further videos, but I'm not even touching on their masculine attitude, and they're antagonistic, and they're judgmental, and they're how would you say? They're always in opposition to you. They're always confrontational with your masculine energy. And you win, of course, because I was the standard. I'm a man, I'm a normal man, so I'm the standard for masculine energy. And they're not. They're just a pale imitation. So they lose every single time, and it doesn't amount to anything. And it just creates friction and disappointment and resentment. And it's horrible. But I don't want to touch on that. I'll do it in further videos, trying to expose what women are in France. Their character, their deep character. Right now I'm just talking statistics. And now you know a little bit of how bad it is in France. The government tells you that women fuck 8 men in their whole lives. When we know every single young man in France knows that those 8 dudes she has already sucked out of basically high school. And I'm conservative. I'm really conservative. So yeah, I'm going to end it at that, because I could rant for a while again, and I'm not going to do that. thank you for listening if you're still here, and I had to get this off my chest. So I guess that'll help. I'm not even sure I'm going to publish this, but if I do, you'll be seeing it. And please tell me what you think of the situation and how it is in your country. Or if you're watching this from France, sorry for using English, but we have to communicate in English because I'm adamant that the internet is made better by trying to make things as accessible to as many people as possible, and that goes for speaking English. So if you're watching from France, hi, have some courage. Et courage les gars, as we say. And I'll be back soon, I hope. Yeah, that'll be all.